Winners program of the crowdfunding formula, my friends. Today we're gonna speak about the two biggest crowdfunding platforms, Indiegogo and Kickstarter. There are more than 1500 crowdfunding platforms in the world, and I myself have used platforms that I'm quite sure nobody has ever heard of, but frankly speaking, these two are miles ahead from all others. And yeah, there's also GoFundMe there, which is again very big, but as we don't really discuss personal fundraising in here, we will analyze only Kickstarter and Indiegogo today. But which one is right for you? I'm gonna show you that right now. But before that, let's just very quickly go over what we covered in our previous module to refresh your brain. So as you remember, we are talking about attacking the press, about finding the authors, building a contact list, preparing a press kit, contacting the influencers, avoiding from rookie mistakes, and about press release services. And today's game plan is the following. We're gonna speak about Kickstarter, about Indiegogo, and about their 14-round battle. We have a very complicated outline today. Okay, let's start with Kickstarter. You probably have a pretty good handle on the basic pros and cons of this platform, but not to miss a thing, let's go through the overall picture of what Kickstarter is today. Today, crowdfunding is mostly associated with Kickstarter, as it's the biggest crowdfunding platform on the earth. Its statistical data speaks for itself, like about 2.2 billion total pledges, more than 100,000 successfully funded projects, and I'm really sure you're gonna be the ones who add value to these numbers, my friends. 10 million of total backers, 1/3 of them are repeated backers. Kickstarter has 15 categories, where the success rate is different in each category. Kickstarter's funding scheme is all or nothing, which means if you don't achieve your funding goal, you're gonna get nothing. Kickstarter's highest number of projects are registered in film and video, music, and in publishing categories. But the highest number absolutely doesn't mean that those categories are successful ones. Particularly, the most successful categories in Kickstarter are, don't be surprised, dance, theater, and music. While the most funded categories, meaning the cash cows which raise the most money, are game, technology, and design categories. With all these impressive numbers, still, the success rate is not exceeding 40% and is 36.2%, meaning that more than 60% of all the projects fail to achieve their goals, unfortunately, while about 80% of all projects successfully reach their goals if they raise 20%. Interesting to know that the most popular time for people to pledge on Kickstarter in 2014 was Wednesday afternoons. Generally, Kickstarter is preferred by media and bloggers and enjoys significantly higher media coverage. Now about Indiegogo. Initially, Indiegogo was focused exclusively on independent films. Here's where the name Indiegogo comes from. A year after launch, however, it started accepting projects from any category. Indiegogo is usually perceived as less strict platform. It provides more categories, it is available in more than 200 countries, and gives users a chance to decide themselves whether they want fixed, meaning all or nothing, or flexible, when the creator gets whatever amount he collects models. Hence, there you have it, general insights of the two of the biggest crowdfunding platforms, but of course they have more differences. Let's see which one wins in a specific battle. My owl is the judge in here, and it decides on which side it is within a specific fight. So we are starting. First, funding scheme. Probably the biggest difference between the two platforms is their approach to money and when you get it. Kickstarter releases funds only after the campaign reaches its funding goal, while Indiegogo provides you with an opportunity to choose between receiving funding as it comes in or waiting to see if you hit your target. As a campaigner, it is much less risky to go with a flexible funding, but don't forget that you have to deliver your promises, regardless of what you raise. From a backer standpoint, fixed funding is a way more attractive and comes with a lot less risk, so bear that in mind when making your decision. But Indiegogo does offer you both options, so it gets our extra owl credit for that. Media and outreach. The media loves Kickstarter, so it does get way more coverage than Indiegogo. The reason for this discrimination is Kickstarter's strict quality controlled image. They deliver higher quality products, so journalists don't have to check through campaign after campaign to find a trustworthy story. This means that on Kickstarter, your campaign has more opportunities to get a lot of press coverage. Big advantage and 1 point to Kickstarter. Next is video hosting. Kickstarter uses its own video hosting service, while Indiegogo uses YouTube or Vimeo. While there are some pros and cons of having your own video hosting service, one thing is certain. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world and provides great marketing opportunities to attract new users. So that's two birds with one stone, since more views on your YouTube video mean high rankings on YouTube while your campaign is running on Indiegogo. However, if you have less views and no comments, it will not look sexy and will hardly be an incentive for backers. So you decide which way to go, but we decide to give our vote to Indiegogo. Reward levels. Indiegogo has imposed a limit on reward levels, limiting it up to 20, as opposed to Kickstarter, which has no limits for at least 50 reward levels. Although 20 reward levels are more than enough to attract your backers in most of the cases. Maybe you want to organize something creative, who knows, and need more. That's why Kickstarter wins in this battle. Eligible countries. After the funding scheme, this is the second most important difference between these two heavyweight champions. At first, Kickstarter was available only in the US, then it enlarged its borders to include Canada, the UK, and Australia. Now it is available in 18 countries. Indiegogo on its turn is available everywhere, officially in 224 countries, and misses out maybe a couple of villages in Siberia, which is why it gets the owl point. Unique monthly visits. Unique monthly visits show how much traffic these sites get, and it's an important factor to consider. Without visitors, there are no backers. We have calculated that Indiegogo on average gets 9 million unique visitors a month. By contrast, Kickstarter attracts between 25 to 27 million, around 3 times as much. But before I award the point, however, let's consider this. More traffic isn't necessarily the best way to go. Each platform has its own categorical strengths. For example, Indiegogo has a thriving technology community, while Kickstarter's gaming community is a great one. Okay, moving forward, project registration. Kickstarter has stricter rules and staff who will manually review whether you comply with this or not. So there are 3 main rules you need to stick to. No personal projects, you should have something to share. No charity. If you have a tangible product, you should have a working prototype. Don't make the mistake of assuming any of this isn't strictly enforced. A recent project offering a laser shaving experience was suspended from Kickstarter after collecting more than 4 million. In response, the project creators registered the project on Indiegogo, which has no such rules, and collected the required amount. Of course, much less than 4 million. In doing so, they proved that Indiegogo puts a greater focus on flexibility, which is why it won the point this time. Next, pledges. Kickstarter charges all backers at the end of the campaign if the goal is reached, so backers show pledging intent rather than a pledge. This results to an average 5 to 10% drop in backers for most campaigns. By comparison, Indiegogo charges the backers instantly, thus winning the point. Next is backer information. Indiegogo provides the contacts of backers when they hit the pay button, while with Kickstarter, only after you reached your goal, you should conduct a survey and ask your backers to provide you their contact info. Out gives 1 more point to Indiegogo. Then customer support. Kickstarter is known for its poor support system. If anything goes wrong, both backers and creators are on their own. Indiegogo